The metallic gleam of the alien diplomatic vessel caught the morning sun as it descended through Earth's atmosphere. Inside the primary conference room of the United Nations building, Mark adjusted his tie one final time. His steady hands betrayed none of the excitement coursing through his veins. 20 years of military service had taught him to maintain his composure, even in the most extraordinary circumstances. The aliens called themselves the Council Representatives. Their tall, slender forms moved with a grace that seemed almost supernatural. Their iridescent scales shimmed under the harsh fluorescent lights as they took their seats across from the human delegation. The lead alien, who had introduced himself as Blue Light Dancing on Still Water, or just Blue, spoke first. His translator device converted his melodic whistles into clear English. "We must admit, we had significant concerns about this meeting. Your world's classification as a death world gave us pause." Mark smiled diplomatically. "I understand your concerns, but as you can see, we've developed a sophisticated civilization despite our world's challenges." He gestured to the elegant conference room, the fine suits worn by the human delegation, and the carefully arranged refreshments. The alien delegation visibly relaxed. One of them, a younger member, even dared to sample a cookie from the refreshment tray. Their earlier tension melted away as the humans demonstrated perfect diplomatic etiquette and careful consideration for their visitors' comfort. Hours passed in productive discussion. Trade agreements were proposed, cultural exchange programs were outlined, and the framework for Earth's integration into the galactic community began taking shape. The first explosion rocked the building's foundation. Mark's enhanced hearing caught the distinct sound of plasma weapons before the second blast hit. His combat implants, hidden beneath expensive clothes and a civilized demeanor, kicked into full activity. Hostiles in the building. The security channel crackled in his ear. Counting 12 heavily armed attackers. Species unknown. The alien diplomats froze in panic. Their species had evolved as peaceful herbivores. They had no natural defense mechanisms, but they were about to witness why humans had survived their harsh world. Mark moved with practiced precision. "Everyone down," he commanded, his voice carrying the weight of battlefield authority. In one fluid motion, he flipped the heavy conference table onto its side, creating cover for the alien diplomats. The human security team transformed before the aliens' eyes. Gone were the polite smiles and careful manners. In their place emerged something that made the aliens' evolutionary instincts scream in terror. The humans moved with predatory grace, their bodies shifting into combat stances that had been refined over millions of years of evolution. When the attackers breached the conference room door, they met not the easy targets they'd expected, but Earth's apex predators. Mark coordinated with his team through subvocal communications, their movements synchronized with terrifying efficiency. The aliens watched in horror as their human protectors demonstrated why Earth was classified as a death world. One security officer took a glancing hit from a plasma bolt, but continued fighting, his body's enhanced healing already addressing the wound. Another demonstrated the terrifying human ability to persist through injuries that would have incapacitated most species. Mark himself moved like water through the chaos, his augmented reflexes and natural human adaptability, making him nearly impossible to target. When his sidearm ran dry, he demonstrated humanity's tool-using proficiency by weaponizing everything within reach. The fight lasted less than 3 minutes. When it ended, all 12 attackers were neutralized, and the conference room bore the scars of the brief but intense combat. The human security team immediately shifted back into their protective roles, checking on the alien diplomats with genuine concern. But the damage was done. The alien delegation had seen behind humanity's civilized mask. They had witnessed the predatory grace, the ruthless efficiency, and the terrifying adaptability that had allowed humans to survive and thrive on their deadly homeworld. Blue looked at Mark with new understanding. You were holding back. All this time, in every interaction." Mark straightened his tie, his civilized mask sliding back into place despite the destruction around him. "We learned to be peaceful," he said simply. But we never forgot how to be dangerous. The message was clear. Humanity hadn't survived Earth by being weak. They had survived by being the most dangerous thing on a world full of dangers. Their civilization wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a choice made by creatures who could afford to be peaceful because they had already mastered being lethal. The news of the diplomatic incident spread quickly through the galactic scientific community. In a quiet research station orbiting Jupiter, 3 alien anthropologists huddled around a holographic display, their expressions showing increasing concern as they reviewed their findings. Tom, their human guide and research assistant, watched with hidden amusement as they studied footage from Earth's various sporting events. The aliens had been collecting data on human behavior for the past 3 months, and their conclusions were becoming more alarming by the day. "This can't be correct," muttered the lead researcher, his antennae twitching nervously. "They call this football a game, but look at the impact forces." He gestured at the display showing a professional match. The players are voluntarily subjecting themselves to impacts that would cripple most species. The second researcher adjusted her viewing lens. "What's more concerning is that they do this for entertainment. Children are encouraged to participate. It's training, disguised as recreation." Tom cleared his throat. "Would you like to see some footage from our other sports? Hockey, rugby, or perhaps boxing?" The third researcher quickly waved his appendages in polite refusal. No, we have quite enough data on your recreational activities." He turned to his colleagues. "Have you analyzed the recovery rates?" They shifted their attention to medical data. Footage showed humans recovering from injuries, continuing physical activity with broken bones, and performing extraordinary feats of endurance. The aliens' color patterns shifted to show their distress. "Look at this," the second researcher pointed. A human runner continued for 42 kilometers despite complete glycogen depletion. Their body was literally consuming itself, and they kept going. "This isn't normal behavior for any species we've studied." Tom watched as they pulled up more data. Ultramarathon runners crossing scorching deserts, swimmers traversing freezing oceans, climbers scaling vertical cliffs with minimal equipment. Each example made the aliens more agitated. "And their rest cycles," the lead researcher noted. "They can voluntarily delay sleep for days. They function, not optimally, but they function, under conditions that should render them unconscious." A second researcher added another data point to their growing collection. "They call it pulling an all-nighter during their education period. They're training their young to override basic biological needs." Tom offered them some coffee, hiding his smile as they recoiled from the stimulant beverage that humans casually consumed daily. They had already classified caffeine as a mild neurotoxin humans had not only developed immunity to, but had turned into a global industry. The third researcher was reviewing historical data. Their entire history is a continuous series of adaptations to lethal conditions. When they can't physically adapt, they create tools. When tools aren't enough, they'd modify their own bodies. The implications are troubling, the lead researcher concluded. What we're seeing isn't a species that evolved beyond their violent origins. They've simply learned to contain their capabilities. Everything in their society, their sports, their entertainment, their education, it's all designed to safely channel their predatory instincts. Tom noticed them watching him with new awareness. They had finally begun to understand what it meant to evolve on a death world. Earth hadn't made humans civilized. It had made them into survivors who chose to act civilized. "Should we update the official species threat assessment?" the second researcher asked quietly. The lead researcher looked at their collected data one more time. "Yes, but more importantly, we need to update our diplomatic protocols. We've been interpreting their restraint as weakness." That was a dangerous mistake. As the aliens continued their discussion, Tom stepped out to file his own report. The Council needed to understand that humanity's civilized behavior wasn't a sign that they had forgotten their Deathworld origins. It was evidence of something far more terrifying. They were so confident in their capabilities that they could afford to be gentle. The aliens were finally beginning to understand. Humans weren't peaceful because they had to be. They were peaceful because they chose to be. And that made all the difference in the galaxy. The colonial settlement of New Haven was supposed to be a shining example of interspecies cooperation. Located on a garden world at the edge of human space, it housed 2,000 colonists, a mix of humans and various alien species. The settlement had enjoyed 6 months of peaceful growth until the pirates arrived. They struck at local dawn, when most of the colonists were beginning their daily routines. 3 unmarked ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, immediately jamming communications and deploying armed troops. The pirates, a notorious gang of scale-covered mercenaries, expected an easy raid on a peaceful farming colony. They didn't know about Jack, the colony's security chief, or the other human colonists. The aliens would soon learn why humans survived Earth. The first sign that this raid would be different came when the pirates' advance team disappeared near the grain silos. They had walked right into a trap set by Jack and 5 other humans, farmers and teachers who moved with the fluid grace of practiced hunters. Team 2, flank east. Team 3, hold position. Jack whispered into his comm unit. The human colonists had organized into hunting packs within minutes of the first alarm. Years of emergency drills, dismissed by their alien neighbors as paranoid, now proved their worth. The pirates found themselves being stalked through their own raid. Human colonists moved through shadows and used the terrain with terrifying efficiency. Their alien neighbors watched in shock as their seemingly peaceful human friends transformed into coordinated predators. A young mother, who yesterday had been baking bread for the colony's children, now moved like a ghost through the settlement's hydroponic gardens. She took down 2 pirates using nothing but a kitchen knife and decades of martial arts training that humans casually called a hobby. The colony's teacher, a mild-mannered man who taught xenobiology, demonstrated why humans never truly forgot their combat training. He coordinated a group of defenders using hand signals and improvised weapons, turning the school's workshop into a fortress. But it was the human children who truly terrified the watching aliens. They didn't panic or freeze like the young of prey species. Instead, they quickly and quietly helped organize the evacuation of the more vulnerable colonists, moving with practiced precision through pre-planned escape routes. The pirates, expecting to find easy targets, instead found themselves facing the apex predators of a death world. Human colonists shrugged off injuries that would have incapacitated other species. They demonstrated their species' terrifying ability to operate through pain, their bodies flooding with adrenaline and endorphins. "They're backing off," Jack reported, his voice calm despite the plasma burn on his arm. Moving to Phase 2. The pirates learned another lesson about humans. They weren't just dangerous in defense. When protecting their own, humans hunted. The colonists had no intention of letting the pirates escape to threaten other settlements. Watching from their secured bunker, the alien colonists saw their human neighbors coordinate with horrifying efficiency. They used their knowledge of local weather patterns to predict visibility. They herded the pirates into killing zones with the instincts of pack hunters. They demonstrated why humans were classified as pursuit predators. The pirate captain realized too late that he had made a fatal mistake. His ship's sensors showed human vital signs spreading out in a classic hunting pattern, cutting off escape routes. Their movements showed generations of military knowledge passed down as historical reenactment and tactical games. By sunset, it was over. The pirates were captured, their ships secured by colonists who demonstrated suspiciously good knowledge of spacecraft systems. The human colonists began treating the wounded and repairing damage with the same efficiency they had shown in combat. The alien colonists emerged to find their human neighbors returning to their civilized behavior, as if a switch had been flipped. The teacher was back to his gentle demeanor. The young mother was checking on everyone's children, and Jack was calmly filing incident reports. But things had changed. The alien colonists had seen behind the mask. They understood now that human civilization wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a choice made by predators secure enough in their capabilities to play at being prey. Their human neighbors hadn't abandoned their Deathworld heritage. They had simply chosen not to display it until necessary. The galaxy would soon learn. A human's civilized behavior wasn't a sign of softness. It was a warning. The Galactic Council's emergency session buzzed with nervous energy. Hundreds of representatives from various species filled the grand chamber, their attention fixed on the central display. The recent events at New Haven Colony had forced them to reevaluate their understanding of humanity. Robert stood calmly at the presentation podium, his presence as Earth's representative drawing wary glances. The footage playing behind him showed humans in various crisis situations, carefully compiled from across human space. As you can see, Robert explained, gesturing to the display, human response to threat isn't just physical. It's biochemical. The footage showed humans performing seemingly impossible feats during emergencies. A mother lifting a ground vehicle to save her child, a sailor swimming for hours in freezing water to reach shore, colonists surviving conditions that should have been lethal. The council members shifted uncomfortably as Robert continued. What you perceive as our civilization isn't a natural state for us. It's a conscious choice, maintained through careful training from childhood. New footage appeared, human children being taught to share, to wait their turn, to control their impulses. We call it socialization, Robert explained. From birth, we learn to suppress our natural responses. We train ourselves to be gentle, to be patient, to be civilized. A council member from a naturally peaceful species raised a trembling appendage. Are you saying your entire civilization is artificial? Robert smiled, and several council members flinched at the sight of human teeth. Not artificial. Chosen. There's a difference. He played more footage. Humans in professional settings, in diplomatic meetings, in peaceful gatherings. We choose to be civilized because we can afford to be. Our history taught us that violence is easy. Peace is harder. The display showed new data, human stress responses, adrenaline production, pain tolerance levels. The Council's scientific experts analyzed the numbers with growing alarm. Humans didn't just survive on a death world. They were biochemically engineered by evolution to thrive in crisis. Your species uses meditation to remain calm, another council member observed. We thought this was to find peace. No, Robert corrected. We meditate to maintain control. There's a difference between being peaceful and being controlled. The footage showed human military training, martial arts classes, sports competitions. Everything in our society is designed to channel our natural capabilities safely. The chamber erupted in concerned whistles and clicks as the implications became clear. Humanity hadn't evolved beyond their death world origins. They had simply learned to hide them beneath a carefully maintained facade of civilization. This explains the incident in the Human Education Center, one council member noted. When threatened, their young didn't exhibit prey response. They showed coordinated pack behavior. Robert nodded. We teach our children safety protocols from an early age. What you saw wasn't panic. It was practiced response. He showed footage of school emergency drills, which the council now recognized as combat training disguised as safety procedures. The data continued to paint a terrifying picture. Human entertainment was revealed as combat training. Their sports were controlled outlets for predatory instincts. Their hobbies often involved practicing survival skills. Even their rest patterns showed their death world origins. Humans could voluntarily delay sleep, function under extreme stress, and recover from injuries that would kill most species. I moved to reclassify humanity's threat level, one council member announced, their scales pale with fear. That would be a mistake, Robert said quietly. We're not a threat. We're survivors. There's a difference. He paused, letting his words sink in. Humanity doesn't want conflict. We've seen enough of it in our history. What we want is cooperation. The council chamber fell silent as the representatives considered his words. They were finally understanding that humanity's civilization wasn't a sign that they had evolved beyond their death world nature. It was evidence of something far more significant, They were so confident in their capabilities that they could choose to be civilized. As the session concluded, the Council had a new appreciation for human diplomatic politeness. It wasn't submission or weakness. It was a predator species choosing to be gentle, and that made their civilization not a facade, but an achievement more impressive than any military victory. The first wave of the Ravager fleet appeared at the edge of human space without warning. Their ships, massive and bristling with weapons, emerged from faster-than-light travel with weapons already charged. They expected to find a civilization of soft, diplomatic creatures. Instead, they found humanity with its mask off. The initial attack on the outer colonies lasted less than an hour. The Ravagers, confident in their superior numbers, didn't expect the hidden defense systems. They certainly didn't expect those defenses to be merely the first layer of humanity's preparation for war. Admiral Wilson stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force flagship Sentinel, watching tactical displays with predatory focus. "All ships, execute Protocol Deathworld," he commanded. Across human space, military vessels emerged from hidden docks, their designs unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. The Ravagers' first clue that they had severely miscalculated came when their energy weapons proved remarkably ineffective against human ships. Decades of preparation had produced hull armor that could withstand direct hits from weapons that should have vaporized them. "They thought we were peaceful," Wilson muttered, watching the battle unfold. They never asked why a peaceful species spent so much on defense research. Human ships moved with devastating precision. Their crews, trained through endless drills and simulations, demonstrated why humanity's military training was more than just ceremony. Every tactic, every maneuver, showed generations of warfare experience distilled into lethal efficiency. The Ravagers learned too late about humanity's approach to combat technology. Human weapons didn't follow the elegant designs of other species. They were brutal, efficient, and demonstrated humanity's talent for turning anything into a weapon. Kinetic kill vehicles, electromagnetic pulse generators, and weapons that bent space itself. Humanity had prepared for this day. "Second wave detected," reported the tactical officer, her voice steady despite the chaos of battle. The Ravagers had committed their main fleet, expecting to overwhelm human defenses through sheer numbers. Wilson smiled, and across the bridge, crew members recognized the expression of a predator about to strike. "Deploy the Ghost Fleet." Across the battlefield, thousands of automated combat vessels emerged from hidden positions. The galaxy had dismissed human AI research as primitive compared to other species. They hadn't realized this was intentional. Humanity had developed its combat AI in secret, creating weapons that fought like human predators. The Ravagers' communication channels filled with panic as they faced an enemy that fought like no other species they had encountered. Humans didn't fight with the calculated efficiency of evolved warriors. They fought with the desperate creativity of creatures evolved to survive at any cost. "They're pulling back from the outer colonies," the tactical officer announced, redirecting toward Earth. "Perfect," Wilson responded. The Ravagers had just fallen into humanity's trap. They thought they were pushing toward humanity's homeworld. Instead, they were being herded into carefully prepared killing zones. The truth about humanity's military capability became horrifyingly clear to the invaders. Every peaceful scientific advancement had a military application waiting to be unleashed. Every diplomatic concession had hidden strategic value. Humanity hadn't neglected its defenses. They had hidden them behind a mask of civilization. The Ravager fleet discovered why Earth was classified as a death world. Their sensors didn't detect the orbital defense platforms until it was too late. Their tactical computers couldn't predict strategies created by minds evolved to outthink prey and predator alike. Their warriors had never faced an enemy that treated combat as a natural state of existence. As the battle reached its climax, the Ravager command received a transmission from the human fleet. Admiral Wilson's voice was calm, almost conversational. "You thought we were peaceful because we chose to be diplomatic. You never asked what happened to the predators that tried to hunt us on Earth." The message was clear. Humanity hadn't survived its death world by being weak. They hadn't thrived in the galaxy by forgetting their origins. They had simply waited, watched, and prepared, maintaining their civilized facade until the day it needed to be dropped. The galaxy would never again mistake human civilization for weakness. They had finally seen what lurked behind humanity's diplomatic smile, and it was more terrifying than any Deathworld predator. The galactic archives buzzed with unprecedented activity as thousands of researchers from various species analyzed footage from the Ravager War. In a secure viewing chamber, a group of senior xenologists watched recordings of human combat operations with a mixture of horror and fascination. The lead researcher, studying a holographic display of human battle tactics, couldn't hide his trembling. Look at their combat formations. They don't just fight, they hunt. Every retreat is an ambush. Every defensive position is a trap. Another recording played, showing human ground forces in action. The soldiers moved with fluid grace that spoke of natural predatory instincts refined by generations of combat experience. Their movements matched perfectly with recovered footage of Earth's apex predators. Their entire civilization was a camouflage, noted a second researcher, reviewing diplomatic records. Every peaceful advancement concealed a weapon. Their medical research gave them combat stems. Their agricultural projects hid weapon stockpiles. Even their children's games were combat drills in disguise. The archives filled with new data hourly. Footage showed human civilians seamlessly transitioning into combat roles during the invasion. People who had appeared to be simple farmers or teachers demonstrated combat skills that should have taken years to master. Their bodies, the medical expert pointed to biological readings. They don't just endure combat, they're enhanced by it. Their stress responses don't degrade their performance, they improve it. Fear makes them more lethal, not less. The footage shifted to show human ships in combat. Their tactics defied conventional military doctrine. Where other species relied on established strategies, humans demonstrated devastating creativity. They turned their own ships into weapons, used debris as ammunition, and transformed civilian vessels into military assets with frightening speed. Look at their eyes, the behavioral expert whispered, zooming in on footage of human soldiers. That's not just training. That's millions of years of evolution as pursuit predators. They don't just fight their enemies. They hunt them down. New data streamed in, showing human recovery rates after battles. Their medical capabilities, previously thought to be primitive compared to galactic standards, revealed their true nature. Humans didn't just heal, they adapted. Every injury made them more resilient. Every defeat taught them new ways to hunt. Their language, the cultural expert noted, reviewing translations, we misunderstood it completely. When they spoke of peace, they didn't mean submission. They meant restraint. Their civilization wasn't an evolution beyond violence. It was a predator's choice to be gentle. The researchers watched footage of human children being evacuated during the war. Unlike the young of other species, they showed no panic. They moved with practiced precision, following protocols that now appeared less like safety drills and more like military training. Their entertainment makes sense now, another researcher added, displaying human media. Their stories weren't just fiction, they were preparing their population for war. Every disaster movie was a training scenario. Every game was a combat simulator. The lead researcher compiled the final report with shaking appendages. We need to understand this, he announced to his colleagues. Humans didn't evolve beyond their death-world nature. They simply learned to control it. Their civilization isn't a sign of weakness. It's evidence of their absolute confidence in their lethal capabilities. The archives continued to fill with analysis of human warfare. Each piece of data painted a clearer picture of a species that had mastered both peace and war. Their diplomatic skills weren't a sign of submission. They were the choice of predators secure enough to play at being prey. Release this data to all member species, the lead researcher ordered. The galaxy needs to understand. Human civilization isn't a facade that crumbled under pressure. It's a choice they make every day, knowing they could choose violence instead. As the researchers concluded their analysis, a final piece of footage played. It showed a human diplomatic meeting after the war. The human representatives were once again polite, civilized, and peaceful. But now the galaxy understood. This wasn't their only face. Behind every diplomatic smile was a Deathworld predator choosing to be gentle. The message was clear. Humanity's civilization wasn't a sign they had forgotten how to be dangerous. It was proof they were dangerous enough to choose not to be. 3 months after the Ravager War ended, the Galactic Council convened for a historic session. The massive chamber, once filled with casual diplomatic chatter, now held a tense silence. The galaxy's political landscape had shifted dramatically since humanity revealed its true nature. At the central podium, Admiral Wilson and Robert stood side by side, their relaxed postures somehow more intimidating than any aggressive stance. The human delegation had returned to their perfect diplomatic manners, but everyone now understood what that civility truly meant. "The war is over," Robert announced, his voice carrying through the chamber. "Humanity holds no desire for revenge or territorial expansion. We simply wish to return to peaceful cooperation." His diplomatic smile, once considered a sign of submission, now carried new weight. The council members watched as casualty reports and reconstruction plans appeared on the main display. Human medical ships were already helping devastated worlds rebuild, their advanced healing capabilities no longer hidden. The same hands that had demonstrated lethal efficiency in combat now gently tended to the wounded of all species. "We propose a new framework for galactic relations," Wilson continued, bringing up detailed plans. "One based on mutual understanding rather than assumed strengths or weaknesses." The proposals showed humanity sharing some of their previously hidden technologies. Not the weapons, but the defensive systems, the medical advancements, the survival techniques. A council member raised their appendage. "Why offer this now? Why share these capabilities after keeping them secret for so long?" Robert's response was simple: "Because now you understand us. You know these offerings aren't signs of weakness, but choices made from strength." The evidence of humanity's new position in galactic politics was clear. Their diplomatic course, once seen as surprisingly passive, now commanded immediate attention. Their suggestions carried the weight of demonstrated capability rather than just political authority. "We're predators," Wilson acknowledged openly, causing several council members to flinch. "But we're predators who choose to be civilized. That choice is what makes us different from the Ravagers." The new protocols being established reflected this understanding. Human space was now recognized as an autonomous defense zone. Their military capabilities were officially acknowledged, not as a threat, but as a stabilizing force in the galaxy. "Your species confuses us," admitted another council member. "You show such genuine care for others, yet possess such lethal capability. You heal with the same efficiency you fight." Robert smiled. "That's because both aspects are equally true. We're not wearing a mask of civilization. We're choosing to direct our capabilities toward peace. The fact that we can choose violence makes our choice for peace more meaningful, not less." The session continued as new trade agreements were established. Human medical technology, no longer disguised as primitive, became highly sought after. Their defensive systems, proven against the Ravagers, formed the foundation of new protection treaties. "Remember," Wilson addressed the chamber one final time, "humanity doesn't want to rule through fear. We want to cooperate through understanding. We revealed our capabilities not to threaten, but to be honest about who and what we are." As the session concluded, the galaxy began adapting to a new reality. Human diplomatic missions were treated with careful respect, not from fear, but from understanding. Their civilized behavior was recognized not as a facade, but as a choice made by a species secure enough in their capabilities to be gentle. The most profound change was in how other species viewed human culture. Their art, once dismissed as simple entertainment, was now studied for its deeper meanings. Their sports were recognized as controlled expressions of predatory skill. Their education system was understood as a careful balance of natural instinct and chosen restraint. In the end, humanity's place in the galaxy was transformed not by their display of power, but by the revelation of their choice. They weren't peaceful because they had to be. They weren't civilized because they had forgotten how to be dangerous. They chose peace precisely because they excelled at war. As Robert and Wilson left the chamber, their diplomatic masks once again perfectly in place, the galaxy finally understood. Humanity's civilization wasn't a facade to be abandoned. It was a choice they made every day. And that choice was more impressive than any show of force could ever be.